Hi, welcome to the GROWQUIRE Show, where we talk about how to grow and acquire. I'm your host, Jennifer Gellatly, and I am extremely excited to have a very special guest, near and dear to my heart, join the show today. Deborah Gagnon was the president for Denny's Canada and one of my own past colleagues. I had the privilege of working with Deborah. She was my president for that brand, and I was so fortunate to have seen her leadership. Leading into International Women's Day, I thought, let's spotlight one of the restaurant industry's top female C-level executives and bring her to the show to talk about female leadership and the restaurant business, her career journey, her life choices, and really the factors that drove her success as a president of the brand. Let's bring her on stage. Hi, Deborah. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for having me, and thanks for that amazing introduction. I'm super excited for our conversation today, and I'm really excited to be one of the first guests on your podcast. What an honor.
It was an easy choice because I was thinking, I have to spotlight women in this series, and especially we're leading into International Women's Day. You're the perfect choice, really. I mean that. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, lucky to have worked with you. Even luckier to be your friend, right?
I feel the same way.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. I want to start off today's conversation. There's going to be women from around the world watching this episode, watching this show. So let's keep that in mind, that it's women from everywhere, not just Canada, catching this episode. And I want to ask, how did your journey start in the restaurant business? How did you end up being a president of a national restaurant brand? Big one like Denny's. This is not a small brand. It's a huge name. So what was your journey like?
Well, it certainly didn't start out with aspirations to be the president. I can tell you that much. I had been in the restaurant industry for many years, actually since I was about 14 years old. And this was my first foray in management, what I would consider full service management. So it certainly started on the operations side of the business, and that's really where my foundation was built. I came into the organization with a strong work ethic and a love of people, and certainly a desire to learn every aspect of the business. But I remember interviewing with Bobby, who was the then president, Bobby Naker, and going home and thinking, oh my gosh. And we had just moved back to Canada from having been in the Caribbean. We had, I think, 6 boxes to our name. I made sure I got to the interview before he did because I had jeans on and a nice top, but jeans because I couldn't afford dress pants. And back then, in the 90s, you didn't go to an interview with jeans, especially if you were going to be in management. And then when he called and said that I had the job, I remember saying to my husband, oh my goodness, I have fooled these people. They don't know who they're hiring. I don't know if I can do this job. But what really attracted me to the restaurant industry was that incredible dynamic that no 2 days are ever the same. And really understanding that for me, success comes from a combination of discipline, leadership, guest experience, and teamwork. And over time, I took on increasing levels of responsibility, and Denny's really gave me the opportunity. Denny's and Bobby gave me the opportunity to go through that organization from that scared young woman who was, stepping into her first foray as a manager of a full service restaurant. And then, from operational leadership into executive leadership. So that progression shaped not only my career, but it also shaped my leadership philosophy and who I am as a person.
Absolutely. So you were with Denny's around 30 years in total, right?
Yes.
That's remarkable. So this did not happen overnight.
No.
This presidency did not happen overnight. This was really earned over a period of time. As you navigated each step of the way, you would have had what a lot of people have, I imagine, an internal conflict going on. Like, can I do this?
Yes.
So talk a little bit about this imposter syndrome that a lot of people face, and especially I think women, we have an extra dose of it. How did you navigate the feelings of maybe not being prepared enough or adequate for those more senior roles before taking them?
That's a great question. And honestly, when I first started, I was really just focused on doing the job in front of me and doing it well. I wasn't thinking in terms of titles or long-term executive roles. But what I did know was I loved the energy of the industry and I cared deeply about building strong teams and strong operations. And I had many, many nights, including, as I mentioned, when I was told that I had the job, of imposter syndrome and do they really know who they've hired? I mean, I can interview well, but oh my gosh, they have no idea what they've signed on for. I have no idea what I'm doing. And over time, I just took small steps to really keep working on building strong teams and strong operations, and those steps added up. And I think many careers evolve that way. You start by trying to contribute, to learn, and to improve. And eventually those experiences open doors that you may not have imagined at the beginning. And they help you get over that imposter syndrome. But I would be less than truthful if I told you that I didn't have those imposter syndrome feelings at pretty much most stages of my career.
So you just chose to proceed anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Just trust myself, trust my voice, believed that I had a place at the table. And then, literally the old cliche, fake it till you make it.
Absolutely. Just do it anyway, even if you don't feel ready for it, just go for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
especially if you don't feel ready for it. That's when I find you experience the most growth and the most learning. And the only way we grow and learn is by making mistakes and messing up and going, oh, that left a mark. And let's tackle that again and see if we can't do that in a different way and have a success out of it.
So, because we're going into International Women's Day, we're talking about imposter syndrome, we're talking about how maybe women have a little bit extra dose of that. What other challenges do you think exist for C-level female executives in the restaurant industry, but just at large? We can see that Fortune 500 companies, only 10% of C-level positions are made up of women. And then furthermore, board seats were like a 30% representation in those companies as well, right? So what is it that's holding women back? What can we do to continue to break down barriers that still seem to persist?
First, I think we need to take accountability for our own careers. I believe, in my experience, I have seen women, especially young women, self select out of the industry, especially the hospitality industry, because they feel that they're having a family is going to get in the way. They are not they're not able to contribute as much. And I think first we need to start by believing there's room for us at the table. Then we need to build depth. They need to know the business, understand the operations, learn the financial side of it, and develop strong people leadership skills. And then don't wait for the perfect confidence before stepping forward. Growth, as I mentioned, often happens well before you say yes, before you feel fully ready. And then you need to seek out mentors and sponsors, but also advocate for yourself. Talent matters, but visibility, courage, and consistency, they matter too, as much, if not more. And I believe that young women especially, still tend to take a back seat, still tend to say, well, I don't want to be seen as pushy or, aggressive. All of the things that men do without even thinking twice, we get labeled for. And we need to first drop the labels, and then the men and other leaders will join in that.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that makes sense, but
It does.
really,
You used very powerful choice of words. Women tend to self-select. We're setting these confines for ourselves, often subconsciously. I think it's directly tied to our sense of worthiness, right? Because if you don't feel worthy, oh, I could have this big job and I could have a family. It's
yes,
the and, not the or. And
yes,
if you don't feel worthy of having both, then you don't have the courage in you to drive those choices forward, right? So
hmm
it does come down to self-selecting sometimes
yeah,
and just going, I got to set myself out of this. Like,
yes.
And go
And
for it.
I believe too, I think that pressure is real we feel like we need to lead differently because we're women. And there can be an unspoken sense that you're representing more than just yourself. But if you lean into it and, over time, you'll become less focused on fitting a mold and more focused on leading authentically and effectively. If for me in my career, I didn't just want to imitate somebody else's leadership style just because that was what had traditionally been rewarded. And I think as women, we look for that. How are the men being rewarded? And if I act that way, then I will have the same opportunities. And that's not necessarily the case. We need to lead differently. And for me, I wanted to be known for being strategic, resilient, collaborative, and decisive. And I think the most effective leaders find a way to be fully themselves while still meeting the demands of the role. And you can do that. It's such, to your point, and so important. You can do that and have a family and travel and not have to work 80 hours a week and find a career that's rewarding without burning yourself out. All of those things are super important. And women we put ourselves last and we sacrifice everything for the sake of the family, the sake of, taking care, nurturing, and we need to get better at balancing those things.
I have just missed so much listening to you speak. I really have. And, that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about next, which is your extraordinary special gift of how you build high performing teams, because you do it from such a place of compassion and empathy towards other people. Talk about what is driving your behaviors and your relationships when you're selecting your senior team members to the restaurant level leaders. What's going into that? What's the secret sauce, Deb? Tell us.
I think part of it is that early on in my career, I was about 17 years old, believe it or not, managing a pizza place. It was very small. I had a team of about 15 people, but I had constant turnover. And I had to look in the mirror one day and ask myself, would I want to work for me? And the answer was a resounding no. I was not the boss that I wanted to work for. And so I started to work on that. And of course, I had mentors and leaders that I followed and, knew about. We didn't have the internet back then, believe it or not, I'm that old. But I chose to look for leaders that I respected and bosses or supervisors that I had worked for, and what qualities did I like about them. For me, I've always believed that culture starts at the top, but it's sustained by what leaders model every day. It's never been about authority for its own sake. It's about influence and responsibility in creating an environment where people can perform at a high level and feel valued while doing it. And I also believe that, if you're afraid to have the tough conversation with one person, that is to the detriment of the entire team. And it's not just your team that's important. Those teams have families. So I've always felt the weight of, my job is to run a profitable restaurant or business or organization or region or whatever level I was at. It was my responsibility to run a profitable organization so that the people that worked for me could go on vacations, could pay their mortgage, could put their kids through college, and to be fair to them and tell them when they were not doing well. I never believed that somebody should be surprised if they have a bad performance review. I've also never believed that you wait until 365 days have passed to tell somebody how they're doing. That should be in the moment. And I believe also that's how you build trust. By your team knows, if I'm messing up, she's going to let me know. And also, if I'm doing well, she's going to let me know, because that team also represents vendors that you have and customers that you have and guests in the restaurant that you have. So if they're not doing well, none of those people are going to do well. And so I've always understood that it goes beyond my team, and that how a restaurant performs and how the team performs impacts so many more people. And I've always felt it was my responsibility. If you're failing, Jennifer, it's my fault. What have I done to not support you enough or to not have the tough conversation with you in order to make sure that you understood, like I said, clarity. What's the expectation? How do I get there? Do you have the resources to do that? So for me, it's always been very people-centric. And once you have that in place, the rest is easy. The rest falls in line. The sales fall in line. The amazing reviews fall in line. The dollars on the bottom line fall in line.
I got to witness all of that firsthand, right? Like your fingerprints were all over that chain. And I recall, like, it didn't matter what restaurant I walked into, the team felt happy. There was a sense of joy. You were on the other side of the country, right? Like, I'm here in Ontario, and I'm like, what is the magic happening here? And it's those fingerprints, it's that culture behind the scenes and the people development that you're talking about. So that's a massive legacy that you built and left behind for that brand. What are some of the other major milestones that you are extremely proud of while you held that role?
That is probably the highest compliment you could ever pay me. It's just amazing to hear that, and thank you for that, because that's truly what my goal always was, is that the team was happy. But some of the biggest challenges, of course, labor shortages, cost inflation, changing guest expectations, economic uncertainty, all of those things were ongoing realities. The pandemic, of course, I don't even like to talk about it anymore because it took us so long, I think, mentally and emotionally to come out of that. But some of the biggest challenges that I faced were just, how do we move forward? How do we stay relevant? How do we keep the brand alive and in front of people? And how do we continue to, as we go from 11 restaurants when I started with the brand to 85, when I temporarily retired from the brand, how do we keep that culture alive? And that was probably one of my biggest challenges, was how do you build that down so deep that it takes on a life of its own? Because I cannot be in 85 restaurants, and I don't want to be in 85 restaurants. I want my team to excel and do better than me. So that was probably the biggest challenge, was really, how do you build that depth?
Absolutely. That's a fair comment for sure. You just touched on something, temporarily retire, right? You're such a powerhouse. And gosh, I can imagine how strange it would be to leave that role and to go off into the sunset for a period of
Yeah.
time. Like, what is next for you? What are you doing now? What's next for you?
Well, I am actually working on my executive MBA right now. I have a grade 12 education, which was something that early in my career I was sometimes embarrassed by and wanted to hide and not share that I only had a grade 12 education. And then I learned that that was actually something that I could use as a strength, especially when talking to young people in the business and saying, hey, you don't have to have a university degree or a college degree to get ahead in this business, to move forward. There's so many other components that go into a successful career. So having said that, though, it's something that I've always wanted to pursue. So now I've got the time to do that. So I was accepted into the University of Fredericton, incredibly thrilled about that. And I'm on my third course right now, and it's been a ton of fun. It's also been a real awakening to be back in school again and to figure out how to time manage that. And I'm making lots of connections, which is great. We've also invested in a restaurant that we can be silent partners in. So I don't have to worry if the cook doesn't show up. I don't have to go and cook, although it would be fun for a day or two. And we're in the middle of a renovation. Once that's through, I'm looking at my next role, whether that is getting back into the corporate world, whether that might be starting a consultancy business, or maybe even doing something along the lines of coaching and mentoring. So at 60 years of age, it's really exciting to know that the world is my oyster. And I haven't really decided what I want to be when I grow up yet. So we'll see.
That's so exciting, for sure. Gosh, I love it. You know what? Like, I feel, yeah, if you did a consultancy, a lot of people would just benefit so much from the experience and the wisdom and the joy you bring, right? It'd be really cool.
I've always loved this industry, but the piece about this industry that is really kept me passionate about it and kept me young, is watching people develop and grow, and watching people be successful, whether that's a franchisee and helping them find a few more dollars in the bottom line, or showing them how they could invest back in their community and market and build their sales, or I'm so proud of the folks that I've been able to develop from, where I started, as a server or as a cook, into leadership roles, into regional roles, into directors roles, and I'm still in touch with them today. So for me, consulting or coaching is where my love and my passion is. So that's probably the direction I'm going in, but that's where I got the most satisfaction and fulfillment, was watching people grow and watching them succeed and watching them, the light bulbs go on for them and say, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And with franchisees, I used to have the conversation where if they were struggling or finding challenges, my favorite thing to do was take them back to when they first opened the doors. How
Mm.
excited were you when you first opened the doors and it was day one and you had this incredible team and this brand new beautiful building, and remember those feelings, and how do we help you get back there again? So for me, that's what consultancy would be, or a coaching position. So we'll see where that
I'm
goes. But
excited to see what happens. So I'm going to take the conversation somewhere different now, and it's going to get a little spicy.
ooh, yay.
Yeah. I want to talk about something that really isn't talked about enough. It's International Women's Day. We
Mhm.
know there are issues where women are still suppressed, and they find it very challenging to rise the ranks into C-level positions, into leadership positions, into board positions. What's not talked about enough is more on the personal side. So how do you go about choosing a life partner, choosing your spouse, choosing that person that you are going to build your life with as a spouse? How do you choose that person when you know deep in your heart, I have these massive ambitions? How am I going to chase those dreams? And who's the right person? Who's that right match for me if that's what is in my heart?
That's a great question. And you're right. Traditionally, women have been seen as the one that has to stay home and take care of the kids. If there's a PD day, or the kids are sick, or daycare's closed, it's the woman that has to put her career on hold. My husband and I, my current, my husband and I of 33 years, do not have children together. He has two boys. But for me, part of what was helpful for me, and not everybody can choose this, but he's a chef. He's in the industry as well. So he gets the late nights, he gets the weekends. But that said, I'm not saying go out and find somebody who's in the same industry as you. What's more important is that Max supports me in everything I do. That man we have moved 26 times over 33 years, back and forth across the country, down to the Caribbean, back to Canada. And, he's always been a massive supporter of mine. And it's more about finding somebody that's going to support you in your ambitions and encourage you and push you when you're not feeling confident, when that imposter syndrome shows up. He's my biggest cheerleader. He's the one that's going, of course you're doing this. Even today with this podcast, when I was thinking about, and when you got in touch with me, and I said to him, oh gosh, I haven't done this in a year. I've been out of public speaking. And he's like, you're going to be amazing. What are you talking about? Of course you're going to do this. And you have something to add. You have something to say. Your voice matters. So those were his words. And I think it's about finding that person that is going to support you, and that you can talk about when things get tough, when you are missing
Mm.
another anniversary, when you're not there again for a birthday, when you've got to get on a plane, or you've got to go to a meeting, or you need to miss the kids' hockey game, or a piano recital, that you have that person that has your back. And what's really been a game changer for Max and I is that we're super honest with each other. And I'll say to him, I've only got 20% today. And he's like, I got the other 80, babe. Don't worry. And because we don't believe marriage is 50-50. It shifts and it changes, and you have to be 100% in, but you can't always have 100% to give to your partner. And so you've got to find that person that's going to back you up and support you and be your cheerleader and champion you. And I'm so grateful and lucky that I have that in my husband. My first marriage didn't have that. Not his fault, super young, but wasn't supportive, and through no fault of his own. It was just, he had a different perspective on what a relationship and a marriage should look like and what those commitments should look like. And so I think it's, again, I'm not saying to anybody, leave your spouse if you don't have these things, but they're things that you need to have conversations about, and it's super important that you find somebody that's going to champion you and going to push you to get out of your comfort zone. Life begins at the edge of your comfort zone, not within it, and you need a partner that's going to support you in that. So it's a bit of a long answer, but I hope that kind of makes sense.
It does, and it's vital, right? How could you have said yes to every opportunity to progress
Yeah.
and climb the ladder without your
Yeah.
partner going, absolutely, go for it, right?
Yes.
Instead
Yeah.
of, whoa, pause. Are you sure there's enough time for
Yeah.
our family right now for you to go chase this? You know, and just, I know Max, he's exceptional. And I was at your place having dinner. We had a great time, the three of us around your dinner
Yeah.
table. And Max went off into the background, and you and I were chatting, and you said, Max is such a feminist. And it just stuck with me, right? He really is. And
Yeah.
to me, there's, feminist. To me, I like the word equalist,
Yeah.
right? Max
Yes.
is an equalist.
Yes.
And why would one partner have different opportunities in their life versus the other? It doesn't the math doesn't add up for him.
No.
Right? And so just that special quality will help make or break whether you will go after those dreams that you have, right?
Absolutely. And beyond even, Max and I didn't get there overnight. It was not always smooth sailing, but more important than the things that I've just mentioned is finding a spouse that you can have those tough conversations with, that will stay in the suck with you, as I like to put it, and navigate through the times where it doesn't feel good and somebody might be feeling left out, or a little bit left behind. And so finding a spouse that you can actually have those conversations with is critically important to being able to move forward in your career at whatever level and in whatever career you choose. You've got to have that support at home.
Mm-hmm. Oh, such a great special conversation. I almost don't want it to end, but I'm going to be calling you as soon as we're off.
Okay.
But I want to end with a closing question that I'm ending every episode on. In just a few words, up until this point, what have been the highlights of your life?
Oh, I think, oh my gosh, there's so many of them. But really for me, I think my journey has been one of really growth, resilience. I have learned I am much stronger and more capable than I thought. One of leadership, and really just deep, deep gratitude for the people, the opportunities, and the chance to really just help build something meaningful. And not only just at Denny's, but in my life with my partner, and the life that we've created and the friends that we have. Those would really be the highlights of my journey, as well as learning to slow down. I would say in the last 3 to 4 years, I've really learned to slow down and be present in the moment, put my phone down, put it on do not disturb. So those would be the highlights of my journey.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. I would just want to thank you for coming on the show today. We'll conclude there, but I will call you like in 5 minutes.
Okay.
And it's such a pleasure and a privilege to have you on. Really, you touched my heart by coming on and saying yes. And I know the audience is going to love all of your words of wisdom that you had to share today. So thank you.
Well, thanks, Jennifer. I really appreciate you asking me. As I mentioned in the beginning, I'm super honored that you thought of me, and that I get to be one of the first guests in what I know is going to be an incredible podcast. And you're going to have a massive audience. So I'm so thrilled, and to be, at the beginning of this journey with you.
Inaugural. You're an inaugural guest.
Yes.
Well, have a great day. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Wow, I'm emotional. I'm a little choked up after that conversation. It was really special. Deborah is a very close friend to me, has been a remarkable leader that I've had the privilege to work with. and a mentor to me who's really sponsored me. She's been that sponsor. So thank you so much, Deborah, for coming on the GROWQUIRE Show. We are excited to see you for the next episode, everyone. Enjoy International Women's Day. Take care.